Have you ever heard a story so strange, so unsettling, that it makes you question the very line between fiction and reality? Well, today we're diving into exactly that. A bizarre echo in time, a moment when a writer's nightmare seemed to jump off the page and into the real world, forcing us to ask, what is coincidence and what is something else entirely?
Okay, so let's just get right into the heart of it. In 1838, the master of the macabre, Edgar Allan Poe, writes a novel. In it, a ship sinks, and the desperate crew ends up eating their cabin boy, who's named Richard Parker. A grim story, right? Now, fast forward 46 years. A real yacht, the Mignette, sinks. The real crew, starving and desperate, decides to cannibalize their cabin boy to survive. And his name? You guessed it, Richard Parker. What are the odds? Is this just the most insane coincidence in history, or is it a clue that something much deeper is going on?
So that impossible echo? For some people, it isn't just a freak occurrence. It actually fits into a much larger worldview, one that sees history not as a random chain of events, but as a predictable cycle full of signs and warnings. To really understand that perspective, we have to look at the ancient prophecies of the Hopi people.
According to Hopi tradition, our world isn't the first. Humanity has already lived through three others, and each one was destroyed when people lost their way. Right now, we are living in what they call the fourth world. And for generations, their prophecies have warned that this world too has an end. But it's not supposed to be a surprise. It's supposed to be announced by 9 specific signs.
And this right here, this is a visual representation of that prophecy. It's called Prophecy Rock. Think of it as a spiritual roadmap. The figure on the left is the Great Spirit, showing humanity 2 possible paths forward. The lower path is a life of spiritual balance. But that upper path, the one with the jagged, chaotic line, that represents a life driven by technology, one that's become disconnected from nature. The entire prophecy really boils down to which path we choose to walk.
And this is where it gets really fascinating. People have interpreted these ancient signs through the lens of modern history. The first sign, the coming of iron snakes, well, that's seen as the railroad tracks crisscrossing the land. The second, a giant spider's web covering the earth, that sounds a lot like our telephone and power lines, doesn't it? Then there are rivers of stone, our concrete highways. The prophecy goes on. The sea will turn black, which many link to massive oil spills. And maybe the most specific one, a dwelling place in the heavens will fall to the earth. A lot of people believe this was fulfilled back in 1979, when the Skylab space station came crashing down.
The whole prophecy builds towards this one final, powerful event. It says that when a figure known as the Blue Star Kachina, representing a powerful cosmic event, appears and removes his mask, that's it. That's the signal that the Great Purification, a period of immense, world-altering change, has arrived.
Okay, so we've been looking at ancient signs and how people interpret them to understand reality. Now, let's pivot to a very modern conflict that's also about signs, but not signs in the sky. We're talking about signs on paper, in digital files. This is a battle over what happens when a group of people completely rejects the government's official story of who they are.
To really get this, we need to understand a key concept called administrative paving. It sounds a little dry, but the idea is huge. Think about it. To the government, or any large institution, you're not just you. Your birth certificate, a social security number, a driver's license. Administrative paving is the idea that this official paper record doesn't just describe your reality, it actually becomes your reality, paving over the messy, complex truth of who you really are.
And this is where that idea explodes into a full-blown conflict. On one side, you have the state's administrative reality. It says you are a U.S. citizen. It might even label some as anti-government extremists. But on the other side, you have the sovereign citizen movement. They completely reject those labels. They say, no, I am a natural person, a free man on the land. For them, the government's entire record is a work of fiction that they refuse to live in.
Now, this isn't just a philosophical debate. This rejection of the official reality has dangerous, real-world consequences. The movement engages in what's known as paper terrorism, filing mountains of bogus legal claims to jam up the court system. And this ideological war doesn't always stay on paper. It can turn violent, and it can escalate with terrifying speed. That's exactly what happened in 2010 when a routine traffic stop involving sovereign citizens ended with the murder of 2 police officers.
This whole conflict really shines a light on how our very definition of truth has changed. Back in 1837, for example, your identity could be anchored to a physical thing, a name on a piece of paper filed away in a specific box. It was static, permanent. But today, your identity can be tied to something as fleeting as metadata, a shared IP address used for a split second. It's not solid anymore. It's ephemeral and way more vulnerable.
So, let's take a breath. We've got an impossible coincidence from the 19th century, we have ancient prophecies, and we have a modern war over legal documents. These things seem totally unrelated, right? Well, there's one perspective that says they're not separate at all. In fact, they're all just threads in a single, hidden pattern.
This viewpoint is summed up perfectly by this quote. It's about viewing the world like one of those giant conspiracy boards you see in movies. You know, the ones covered in pictures and notes, all connected by red string. The goal isn't to believe the official story. The goal is to chase those red strings, to find the hidden connections that nobody else sees.
And the core concept here is something called the flattened archive. So stop thinking of history as a timeline. Instead, imagine it's all one massive searchable database. From that perspective, Edgar Allan Poe's novel in 1838 and the real shipwreck in 1884 aren't separated by time. They're just two data points that, when you put them together, reveal a startling pattern, an echo.
And once you put on those glasses, you start seeing these kinds of connections, these synchronicities, literally everywhere. The Richard Parker thing is just the tip of the iceberg. This worldview finds hidden links in everything, from biblical stories to SpongeBob SquarePants. The ultimate point is to try and prove that what we call random or coincidence is really just an illusion, a failure to see the bigger pattern. So all of this brings us to a final, crucial question. We've seen how people can reject or reinterpret the official records. But what happens when the official record itself, that administrative floor we're all supposed to be standing on, is just flat out wrong? Because it does happen. Look at these cases. David Parker literally created a false reality for police, telling them his wife was on a cruise while her body was hidden in their house. Carly Russell fabricated an entire kidnapping, and for 49 hours her false story was the administrative reality for law enforcement. And then there are cases like the unsolved murder of Shirley Parker from 1969. That's a permanent crack, a place where the truth of what happened exists, but the official record has never been able to find it. So after going down this rabbit hole, from a creepy 19th century novel to ancient prophecies and modern battles over reality, we have to ask ourselves, are these just weird glitches in the system? Are they just anomalies? Or are they clues, telling us that the official stories we're told might not be the whole truth?
And that really leaves us with the final, most unsettling question of all. We rely on records, on these official stories, to define our reality. But if the record can be so wrong, so easily manipulated, or so completely out of sync with the truth, then what is actually real?